growth is never ending. You're always going to have setbacks, but you always have to keep squeezing lemons of life. You always need to keep with the comebacks. You never really giving up on yourself. And the subtitle is taking responsibility to define your own success. So in one sentence, to summarize kind of that, the key takeaway is when you realize you can be the cause, problem, and solution for everything in your life, your world changes. So it's really that radical responsibility approach, but also in a way that's, should give you a sense of peace and kind of disarm the chaos that goes on. Because when you focus on only the things that are in your control and the choices that you make, and then realize that you are the only thing is how you can respond to certain things, all the other stuff we have anxiety about goes away.
Welcome to the Brave Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Lynn, founder of Sistership Circle and author of Open Your Heart and The Art of Leading Circle. I'm the mother of 2 girls, an 8 on the Enneagram, aka the Challenger, happily married to my business partner, Brent, love connecting with nature, and have put in well over 10,000 hours circling with other women. On this podcast, we will explore how to embody the brave woman so that you can take action on your dreams and desires, unapologetically speak your truth, and live life on your own terms. Grab a seat and a cup of tea, and let's get started. Welcome to today's show where, I've been having this thought that I just want to have deep and meaningful conversations with women. I mean, this is just how I operate, but I really want the women on this show to be in that conversation with you and with me. And so we get to feel like we're sitting in circle or we're sitting around and having a cup of tea together. And so today I'm really excited to dive in and have some sister time with a new sister, Kayla. Hi, welcome here to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so, I was asking before we started about, what feels alive in life, in your life right now, and what feels like the key theme. And you said patience. And I think we can all relate with that, where we just want things now, and we live in this society where everything's instant gratification. And so how are you dealing with patience these days?
Yeah, it's funny. I call it the microwave society, where it's, we expect to just heat things up and bam, they're there, 30 seconds and we have the reward. And I'm very familiar and I understand this is not how it works. But at the same time, we were talking about building businesses and, the reality of exercising patience and not just saying I have patience and actually truly exercising it becomes very real and becomes very important, and really focusing on the daily task, the small wins, the progress to ultimately achieve the larger goal. And so for me, I've had to really prioritize those small wins every day to keep going. Of course, there's a lot of structure. There's things that, you can't wake up and be like, oh, I can get to that tomorrow, because tomorrow there's plenty of other things that have to be, accomplished. And I've really realized, giving myself credit while also continuing to push forward is really, really important. And for a long time, I very much so struggled with giving myself credit. It was always, achieving the next big thing rather than focusing on, the journey and those small wins along the way. So I would say the patience is, it's definitely coming along and it's much better. And by exercising the gratitude and also, really being present in the fact that, hey, I had a successful day. I accomplished a lot of things, and whether it's a lot or maybe it's just one big thing, and just really recognizing that.
Yeah, I think you're also talking about something that is really hard for women, where we are focused so much on what's not going right versus celebrating what is going right, and celebrating ourselves, celebrating each other, creating that culture. I mean, that's what Sistership Circle is all about, is we want to create the culture of celebration, and it starts with you celebrating yourself. So I love that you are talking about that and celebrating those tiny little wins that incrementally add up, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's so important. I always, I think the groundwork for everything that I do, I prioritize personal development and self-work because if I'm not the best version of myself, I can't show up and be the best version for other people. But I do truly believe my purpose is spreading human consciousness and like really helping people deep dive into who they are and the lives that they're supposed to live. And I can't do that if I'm not the best version of myself. So that's super, super key.
Yeah. And this kind of leads us into, I think, our big conversation today, and that is that we are both running two projects, two businesses, and so I want us to jam on that because so I can relate, you can relate with me on this, and what you're talking about here, I think, is so key to running two different businesses. So tell us a little bit about the two projects that you're working on.
Yeah, so my partner and I, he's also actually my life partner,
Hmm.
we have just started. We originally signed on for one Pilates franchise. It's called Jet Set. It's a new franchise model, but it's been a business down in South Florida for 15 years. So their franchising is new, but I actually know the development team very well from past experience and working in Pilates. And we quickly decided to sign on for two more. So we are opening three Pilates studios, and it's not just, of course, you're not just walking into the doors and saying, hey, here's a Pilates studio, let's operate it. Like we're building it from the ground up. And we're very green to this process. He's owned a concrete company, so he's a little more familiar with the build out stuff. And I'm like, it's a foreign language to me.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm learning a ton and I love that part of it. But for like the operations part, the community part, the communications, like that is me. So I can't wait for the doors to be open. But there's so much. I mean, there's so much coordination, there's so much project, there's timelines, there's deadlines. And, we're just kind of getting started into the phase of where we're about to start construction. So it's going to be a grind. And we're supposed to open our first location in around May, beginning of June. So very excited for it. But again, also a lot going on. In addition, I have a nonprofit and it's called Move Into Words. And a nonprofit, I always say this, there's really not a difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit. There are, but what I mean in terms of the way a company, the business is operated, it's the same. The
Yep.
only difference is a nonprofit is operated off of their missions and values. And I mean, if all businesses actually did that, it'd be a much better corporate world in general. But so again, we're building another business. And last year was our first year. It was more kind of proof of concept, getting our name out there, getting feedback, really developing out the structure and system we wanted. And this year it is actually for like all the way down, like going for it, foot to the pedal, focusing on fundraising, getting money, sponsorships, building out employee benefits, things along those lines. And the nonprofit's called Move Into Words, and it's really all about cultivating a community for young professionals to thrive, where we cultivate, focusing on mental and physical health habits.
Hmm. Amazing. You are such a mirror right now because I moved to Costa Rica and
Oh,
we are
fun.
building a goddess temple and retreat center. And so we are the same where we are in the construction phase. So what you're talking about, and my husband is the one who's doing all the building and managing the construction team, right? And I'm the community, and I'm just like rearing to go. We do our first retreat very soon. Actually, yeah, it might be around the time that this podcast comes out. And I'm itching and I'm impatient, just like you were saying, and it's like, you're ready for the doors to open so that you can do your magic, right?
Yeah.
And it's so like we're totally green, like we're learning as we're going, in terms of doing all the building and stuff. So now, how's it been for the two of you working together?
So we were actually best friends and kind of business
Mm.
partners before we started dating, and that was a couple years
Oh,
before we began dating. So it was actually almost like weird being together at first because we already knew each other. So like, when you first start dating somebody, you get into the like, okay, tell me all about yourself. Well, we already knew
yeah.
everything. Like I used to be his wingwoman, he was my wingman. Like it just, and when we first met as friends, we just weren't in a place to be in committed relationships. So we were like, truly timing is everything. And we truly just respected each other as friends. There was never a line crossed ever for like over 2.5 years
Wow.
until the line was crossed. And then it was history from there. But yeah, no, it's been great. And I really think why it's great is because we do communicate very well.
Mm.
If there's an issue, we talk about it. We don't let things start to build up. And sometimes we have the hard conversations, and they are hard. Don't get me wrong. I mean, living together, working together, you get in each other's space, but at the same time, like, we never really get tired of each other. And I think it is
Mm.
because we do communicate very well. We also recognize that we don't have the same strengths. He's better at certain things than I am. I'm much better at certain things than he is. And we're not competing against each other to be the best at
Mm.
everything. We're delegating accordingly. We're prioritizing accordingly. And, it's, hey, I need you doing this bigger level thing. I'm going to focus on this priority task. And I need you doing this larger level thing. And I'm going to get this, little annoying checklist out of the way. So it comes down to a lot of communication, but also, really just honing in on your strengths and not making it a competition. Because I think, naturally, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a business owner, you're a go-getter, there is a little bit of a competitive nature in you, and
Yep.
definitely like a little bit of ego. And so as long as you don't let those things get in your way, you know, and you realize teamwork and having a team and also your actual partner, when you both are working towards the same goal, all you're doing is 2 timesing, which ultimately equals 10 timesing, what you can actually accomplish together. So it's really cool.
Mm. Yeah, they say that power couples could be in power struggles due to competition.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my husband and I. That's where we've been challenged sometimes, is with the communication. But when we've gelled the most is exactly what you just said around, he stays in his lane and I stay in my lane, because we're like really focused on our strengths and we find that synergy, and that's when everything just takes off. So the fact that you've got the communication and you are aligned and you know what your roles are, that's awesome. And so now you
Yeah.
get to be a model for others of what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not rainbows and butterflies every
Oh, I
day,
know.
but and,
I
and
know.
those paths end up crossing sometimes, and then but what's nice is we recognize it, because here's the
Yes.
thing, like, if we let it go on too long and we're just constantly butting heads, that's not productive for either one of us or the
Yeah.
business. And so I think we're both like very realistic people too. Like, we don't
Mm.
just, we have big visions, obviously. Again, an entrepreneur, you're a visionary, like, you see the end goal, but we don't want to waste time. We want things to be as effective as possible. We're not going to let us get in the way. There's going to be plenty of other things outside of our control that are going to slow down progress, get in the way. We are going to be one of them. So,
Mhm.
I think when we really just prioritize and, again, stay as much in our lane as possible, things become so much smoother. Kind of, you said, that synergy just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And is he also really into personal development like you?
He is,
Yeah.
yes,
There you
which is
go.
great. Yeah, so he's very much so into. He's so smart, and he goes down rabbit holes. So what I love about him, and like, I learned fun facts. He's like, well, I call him walking Google, because if there's
Oh my
something
God.
he does not know, he goes down the deepest rabbit hole ever and finds out every single thing about it. Right? So, like, I'm like, what? How do you even know that? And it's super cool. But yeah, so we're both super into fitness. We're both into health. We're
Mm.
both very aligned with our values. So that definitely helps. It's just not like we're not having to pick up the slack. Like, I'm not
Yes.
taking great care of myself, and then he's over there. I'm like, hey, like, maybe you should go to the gym, or hey, maybe you should eat healthy. Like, we both can
Amazing.
100% take care of ourselves, which is
Mm.
absolutely super key when it comes down to not only a relationship for me, but also a partnership.
And so were you really into Pilates and teach Pilates as well? And that's why you're doing a Pilates studio?
Yeah, so it's funny because he told me for years, and it's weird how things just kind of start to click and come together. He
Mm.
really wanted to get into the fitness world, invest heavily into that, but he just didn't really know what avenue. And I have massive experience in the Pilates management, Pilates coaching world for about 5 years up in DC prior to moving to where I'm
Mm.
now in North Carolina. And we met working in real estate together. And it was the end of 2023,
Mm.
and we were driving around, and I kept driving to downtown Charlotte to go take a Pilates class. It was a reformer class. And so they're tailored. Like, you can't just
Yeah.
go to a normal Pilates class and get the same experience. And he was like, so is there nothing up here that you can just go to? And I was like, no, there's nothing like it. He's like,
Mm,
we should look into that. And really from then on, we had conversations, and it was the beginning of the year. Last year, we started having the initial conversation, and there was just a lot going on. The book launch should work. And we were like, I don't know if now's the right time. And then some stuff at our previous job kind of hit the fan in May, I believe it was. Yeah. And then we were like, all right, let's go in. And so that's when like the whole kind of conversation started. And, he's the business numbers guy. Don't get me wrong, I'm numbers too, but he's very analytical, very good. And I'm like front end operations,
awesome.
coaches, community. So yeah, that's how it all kind of unfolded.
That's so cool. So exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can relate. My husband's Mr. Research Analytical. Now instead of Google, it's ChatGPT, and he's got his GPTs
Love.
like working for him. And yeah, it's funny because you're saying going down the rabbit hole. I'm like, oh yeah, I know about that. But like us visionary women, like that's a good compliment, and
Yeah,
a complimentary energy when we
for
find
sure.
these amazing men who can do all that
I have a
researching.
question for
Yeah,
you too, actually. Are
sure.
you going to start hosting retreats like at the place you're building for other people, or is it just going to be your retreats?
Both. Yeah.
Okay. Because I might
Yeah.
have to talk to you because we
Oh
definitely
yeah.
want to do like a Pilates moving towards collaboration retreat. And Costa Rica would be amazing. Like, I definitely wanted to go somewhere and do something. So, totally need to talk about that
Oh yeah.
at some
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Oh yeah. Okay. So let's go into your book. And I know what it's like to write a book, and so yeah, just tell us a little bit about your book and the process of writing it.
Okay. So, my book title is Always Squeezing Lemons, and I love metaphors, and I think they're just the simplest way to really summarize and consolidate a more deep important topic. And really what it means is, we always hear the when life gives you lemons, keep squeezing them. But the always is what's really key, because this book is really about personal growth, personal development, and life's always going to give you challenges. Growth is never ending. You're always going to have setbacks, but you always have to keep squeezing lemons of life. You always need to keep with the comebacks. You never really giving up on yourself. And the subtitle is taking responsibility to define your own success. So, in one sentence, to summarize kind of that, the key takeaway is when you realize you can be the cause, problem, and solution for everything in your life, your world changes. So it's really that radical responsibility approach, but also in a way that's, should give you a sense of peace and kind of disarm the chaos that goes on. Because when you focus on only the things that are in your control and the choices that you make, and then realize that you are the only thing is how you can respond to certain things, all the other stuff we have anxiety about goes away. And so I really write about my journey of completely starting over. I got a divorce, I left my job, and I was just very unfulfilled, and I was focusing on doing all the things I thought I should be doing rather than doing the things I truly wanted. So the book is really a very raw, real, relatable journey of coming out on the other side and what that really looks like. And one really key tool for me was journaling, and it's the
Mm.
foundation of my nonprofit. I have journal prompts in the back of each chapter that really relate to kind of how you can take my experiences, apply them to yours, and also hopefully pick up the practice of journaling. So in a quick summary, that's kind of like some of the key takeaways.
Mm. I love I love that. I love the radical responsibility and taking that time to journal and just this concept of turning lemons into lemonade. I did a I did this kind of goofy ad once for our book where I had a lemon tree in my backyard and I was like in the lemon tree, like
I
it
love
made some
that.
analogy about the I can't remember, but I remember just thinking this is so silly and yet it can like, it's kind of what's it called when you it's a uh where you distract people, like it's different, right? Like you see all of a sudden
Yeah.
this woman in the tree in your ads, but anyway.
Lemons
But
are bright and fun though, so
yeah, yeah, they
yeah.
are. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it sounds like then you've really overcome some challenges and were able to really see well, turned it into lemonade. I like to say, see the medicine in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's funny, like as my editor was awesome, and we were trying to come up with like cool ideas to kind of flow it together because growth and journeys, as we know, are ebb and flowing. They don't, it's not linear. And so a lot of the chapters are kind of like based off of like timelines, and they flow together, but the timelines are a little, mixed up. So the process of like the growth through the book is the process of making lemonade. And so like all the way from growing the lemon to like pouring your fresh, like refreshing glass of lemonade. So it's really cute in the way it kind of ties together too. Very methodical, but very easy read as well. But we were even talking before we started about how writing a book is hard and also how not only that it was very challenging, but from the time that like I wrote that book, I could probably write three more. And I think what, other authors I've spoken to is I would almost call writing a book, especially about your own life or experiences, to be able to help others. Because obviously, when you write a book that it applies to your stories, it's about you, but it's not about you. It's for other people. And so taking things that are really raw and relatable and vulnerable and putting them on pages for other people to read is very, very hard and like the weirdest way. And I would almost call it like an accelerated healing journey.
Mm.
And, when I talk to other authors about that, they very much so relate. And it's almost like it's like a time warp of just putting all these thoughts and feelings down and like getting it out there. And then you're like, wow, now I'm in a whole different life. Which is also, relates to the therapeutic part of journaling and really being honest and vulnerable with yourself. And again, if you were to read my book, you'll see how very vulnerable and raw it is. Even I remember my dad read it, of course, and I was like, skip chapters 4 through 7, please. And of course he won it, but
And
I was
you're
like,
like,
oh, I know. I was like, we don't need these conversations, Dad. And of course it wasn't like that. He loved it, but it's just it requires a lot of you, and not just for the timing and the deadlines and getting it out there and learning a whole new process. Because I mean, gosh, not just writing the book, it's publishing it and marketing it, whole different world. But at the end of the day, you're sharing very personal things,
mm-hmm.
Close to your heart, things that you really had to deal with, things that you made mistakes on, bad coping mechanisms and just stuff. And you put it all out there in hopes that other people can take it away and, truly not make the same mistakes.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that about your dad, because I just turned this podcast this year into a daily. So we have the interview weekly, but then 5 days a week, I'm just doing like these 10-minute little talks. And I was telling my husband just yesterday, I've been really wanting to talk about sex.
I
Like
love that. That's
I
what I want to write my
feel,
next book about.
and I really want to get like kind of into the nitty gritty of the stuff that I would never talk about, right? And he said to me, well, it's not like your parents are going to watch it or listen to it. And then I was like, and you know what? My dad was trying to talk to me like just last year about sex with my mom, like how he wanted to talk to me about his sex life with my mom. And I was like, why are you telling me this? Right. I'm
Yeah.
like, they probably would listen and be
Right?
totally into it. And it sounds like
Yeah.
your dad, the same thing, where we have these conceptions of like, oh no, my parents, this is so inappropriate, but they're actually just humans. And when we're adults, like, they don't, it's just so different. So I just find that funny about that you're,
Yeah.
you're
It's
having the same experience with your dad.
It's so true though, because I mean, we're programmed that way, and then like until you like really kind of like rip that band-aid off, they're not naive to the fact that we're adults. Like I'm 30 years old, like I've been supporting myself since I've been 18. Like there's no, I don't know, but it's still just kind of weird. But at the same time, like I'm such an open book that at this point it's kind of, and like my parents also realize that. So I don't think it was a little weird at first because I had sent it just to my mom, my sister to read like before it was published or whatever. And so then
Mhm.
my dad calls me, the next day. He's like, I heard you sent your book to Mom and Taylor. And I'm like, yeah, I did. He's like, well, why haven't I received it? And I was like, well, I was going to make you a special one. I was going to cut out a couple chapters. He's like, absolutely not. Like got super like quick to react. I was like, okay, fine. So I just sent it. And I was like, oh, it's weird. So weird.
Well, let's talk about sex for a little bit. You wanna?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
So I'm curious because one of the things that I'm constantly balancing with working with my partner
Hmm.
is the balance of we're in workspace. We're kind of in this more masculine, like we're not very polarized when we're doing business together. And so, how do we balance that with our sex life? And
Hmm.
there's been this kind of ebb and flow through our relationship. Um, and right now, like it's great. Like it's hot. It's there's just a totally different way in which we're relating to each other sexually. But I'm wondering about you working with your partner, if that has impacted your sex life.
Honestly, not really. And
No,
I think
okay.
it's because like we do a good job of turning off and turning
Mm,
on. And I
hmm.
think that's what's really, really important. When the night kind of comes to an end, like we usually kind of eat dinner together if we can, but kind of just have the same evening routine. Before we started dating, I would stay on my computer all night or like
Yeah.
read in my bed by myself or stuff. But like our days are so busy, and when we wake up, we're first thing in the morning. Sometimes we have like we wake up early before we go work out a lot of the time, so we'll have some time to sit there and kind of chat or have sex. But so it just depends. But I think the most important key of that, where like it doesn't, I guess, interfere too much, is
Mm.
turning off and off to where you're not in that dynamic constantly. Because yeah, I mean, all day long, I mean, we're just going, 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 and your mind is going nowhere near that, So
Yeah.
it's all so focused on work and getting this next thing done. So, in the evenings, I've definitely just we both shut off pretty well.
Mm. And
And
so, what do you think's better for you, or which one do you prefer, morning or evening sex?
it depends. Like if it's a date night, definitely evening,
Yeah, yeah.
but otherwise, honestly, the morning.
Mm,
It starts the day off well. Like
yeah,
I totally prefer the morning if that's the case. But date night, yeah, 100%.
yeah. Energizing you, ready to go,
Yeah, absolutely.
and keeps you
It's the
connected when
best
you're.
way.
Yeah, it keeps you
Yeah.
connected when you're working together, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a great start to the morning. That and a little workout, great. And then we cold plunge together in the mornings too, which is
Oh,
great. So he does it more than I do. I will say he's like super committed and dedicated, and his discipline is next level, and I respect him so much for it. But yeah, so I hate cold so much, but there is so many benefits to it, and like you feel great
oh
after.
yeah.
So yeah.
Is he doing it every day?
Yeah, right now, every single day. So we got it. Gosh, he got it last year. Like I want to say March or April, something like that. So we had it all last year, and we were kind of like not like inconsistent. We were doing it for a long time, and then like we were traveling a ton, so kind of got out of the routine. So now we have like a whole year calendar printed out, and we're marking the days that we cold plunge, like calculate at the end of the year how many days we can have cold plunging. But he's gotten every single day since January started, so 15 days in a row. I think I may have done like 8. So
Okay, not bad,
yeah,
not
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got a one of those big cooler things. I don't know where it went. It used to be right here, and now it's gone. And I'm like, huh, maybe we do need to kind of get that going. I
Yeah,
like
it's
your
it's fun.
routine.
Yeah, it's fun, honestly. I mean, you both face a little bit of like horribleness first thing when you wake up, but sets the tone for the rest of the day. So,
Yeah, yeah, setting the tone. I think that's just so important when we have an intention, right? And we're clear and we're setting ourselves up. I see this so much with women. I was just talking about it the other day in a women's circle of like sabotage and the ways in which we fall into these patterns, whether it's, just um, checking out with a glass of wine and Netflix, or putting bad things into us, right? Versus what does it look like to put the good things in, to be intentional with how you are cultivating your energy, especially as entrepreneurs and creating, and being the embodiment of the personal development. And that's what I really
Yeah.
hear with just the things that you're doing in the morning of like, how am I setting up my day? Well, I'm connected with my partner by having sex. I'm doing cold plunges. I'm exercising. I'm eating well, right?
Mhm.
Has it always been that way for you? Or is this something that you've really been more intentional about as you've gotten older?
So the intention has definitely increased significantly as I've gotten older. And I don't even know, I do think with age it does come a little bit, but I also think it comes with more purpose as well. And,
Mm,
when you have a much bigger why and you're really working towards super large goals, like I don't have time to not feel well. I don't have time to, put toxic things in my body that take, hours and hours to get out of it. I don't have time to be tired, like I have to prioritize my sleep. I have to prioritize my mental sanity. And, for me, physical activity really helps that. Journaling does as well. So, really prioritizing those personal things have become significantly more important, especially as I'm really building these businesses out. But they physical activity has always been a habit of mine, and like overall eating well. I've been an athlete my whole life, so I would say I've adopted a lot of those habits early on,
mm,
but I've definitely amplified them for sure. I mean, next level than even over the past couple of years, and they continue to grow. I'm constantly trying to learn something new, like, oh, this, drink this then time, or try this, or so but again, being in the space for a while, like I have a really strong basis of what, living healthy really looks like. And also, I think what's important for people that are wanting to just kind of get started or like feel overwhelmed with too much of like, oh, I have to do all this to be healthy. Like, no, you don't. Like, simplify it. Drink a lot of water, eat vegetables, don't eat processed foods, walk. Like, it doesn't have to be hard. And even for myself, when I'm super busy, like I don't have time to count my macros. I mean, it is just, and it's not that like I mean, don't get me wrong, I could make time. I could make time if I really wanted to, but I don't really want to do that. I already kind of have a really good idea of the amounts I should be eating, like intuitively. I know what to put in my body that will fuel me. I know what to not to put in my body if I want to, like go to sleep immediately and it's, not healthy. So I think it's just super important to, really focus on those things and
mm.
simplifying as much as possible to fit within your schedule, but also, optimize yourself, like optimize your energy. And I think that is the key for me right now is I need the energy, and I not only just need it, I want it. I want to feel good. I want to feel clear. Like I'm not creative when I don't feel good. So, a lot of that comes down to your habits. All of it comes down to your habits, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I love that. If you are a purpose driven woman, a visionary woman, there's a lifestyle that supports that. And it's a healthy, intentional lifestyle. And that is all about like, how am I optimizing my energy so that I can fulfill on my vision? And I feel the same
Absolutely.
way. And sometimes I forget that I have a very healthy lifestyle that is a visionary woman's lifestyle. It's almost like there is a type of lifestyle for the visionary woman that you're talking about. Well, a spiritual, visionary woman who's in personal development and working towards creating something meaningful and impactful in the world. You know,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think also too, like how, like if I own a Pilates studio and I'm, telling young professionals that they thrive on mental and physical wellness and I'm not embodying that, then
yes.
I'm just a pure hypocrite. So, and at the same time, don't get me wrong, like there's been multiple times where I used to drink too much. I definitely, was not prioritizing things the way I should have. And but you just have to check yourself. And and sometimes like when you're in it and you're like, I worked in a very high stress job and you're just going through the motions. You don't really realize it. And I know there's a lot of people like that, right? So really with what I'm doing, especially like in the movement towards space, but also even in the Pilates community space, like providing a place to really drive home the community aspect, but really prioritizing the habits and the overall lifestyle and well-being that will make you your best version of yourself. And, like I said, if I'm not doing that every day, then how can I help other people? And so that's, with that type of purpose, with that type of intention, definitely amplifies, how I live, what my habits are, constantly really checking myself on that too.
Yeah. Embodiment, 100%. And as
Mm-hmm.
someone who's in Pilates, where it's all about like really connecting with your core, like
Yes.
that's not just like your physical core, like it's all about alignment and
Mm-hmm.
embodiment. And that's one of the things I personally love about Pilates, and is that it physically helps me with that alignment and embodiment that we talk so much about at
Yeah.
Sistership Circle, like being an embodied leader who's really walking her walk. And a big part of that I don't know if I talk enough about is this healthy lifestyle piece where we are creating this physical temple to thrive and to be optimized to carry out our good work in the world. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need more women like that stepping
Yeah.
into that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, that's like I said, that's where like even like my whole purpose lies. But it's really just being really intuitive too, making small little changes. Cause, if you are living an unhealthier lifestyle and you want to start living a healthier lifestyle, don't do the crash diets, don't try everything at once, make those small marginal changes, trade a Coke for a water, like start switching just small and making those small changes, and you'll feel completely different. You'll notice a big difference.
Mm. All right. So if you want to check out this book, our Lemons book, then we have that in the show notes. And is there anything else that you've got going on that you want to share and we could put in the show notes?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, my website,
Hmm.
kaylalogue.com, is where everything is. So I mean, my
Awesome.
book, some workshops, stuff with speaking engagements, opportunities to possibly work with me, things like that. It's all on my website. Moving
Sweet.
towards nonprofit. So yeah. All the social handles, everything. Website is housed.
Awesome. Great. So yeah, we'll put that in the show notes, and then we'll just end with, if you want to speak to all the brave women in the world and you have your loudspeaker from the mountaintops, what would you say to be brave for the brave women?
I mean, I think, and this is a little counterintuitive, but I always like to kind of enforce this, is to be a little selfish, because it's sometimes the most selfless thing you can do. And in fact, it is. It's not being selfish at the compromise of others. It's being selfish not to compromise yourself, and, really prioritizing yourself and what you want and what you want to do and why you want to do it, and becoming the best version of yourself in that light, because ultimately you will be the best version of yourself for other people. And that's when you'll be able to be truly selfless.
Yes, sister. Thank you for that. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Brave Woman podcast. We'll see you next time. You just listened to this show. I'd love for you to leave the Brave Woman podcast an honest review. Reviews help podcasts like this one grow, making it more possible for me to devote my time, energy, and money to its production. If you take a screenshot of your review and email it to support@sistershipcircle.com, we'll send you one of our archetype activations as a thank you gift. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.